Hi, my name is Professor Karopis, and I am the faculty member who's in charge of the Sandbox News. In order for you to get some really great photos of the events that you're covering, we have a brand new camera for you to use. So before you use a camera, please watch this video because it will let you know everything you need to know in order to use the camera successfully. So this video is just to help you get acclimated with the camera that you have available to you in order to check out for photography and video means for the Sandbox News. So I'm just going to talk about some of its features so you know how to utilize it. It comes in this bag, and it actually has a lot of different things inside the bag, so you want to make sure everything is returned. There'll be a checklist for you in the bag so that you can make sure that everything is included. When you use the camera, obviously you want to make sure that it's charged. So the camera, actually the bag, comes with this little adapter that has a like a wall socket here, so you would just plug this in. And it also comes with an extra battery. So there are two batteries with this camera that you can use just in case you run out of battery. To remove the battery, it's actually at the very bottom on the base of the camera. There's a little door here. It says card battery and open, and so you can actually just do that, open it up, and you can eject the battery. Come on, battery. Here we go. Alright, you can eject the battery, and then all you have to do is just place it into the charger and then plug it into a wall socket, and then it'll charge the battery up. You probably want to charge both batteries, or just make sure both are charged before you take it out, just in case you can't charge it wherever you are. Also in that same compartment is the SD card. Oops, there it is the SD card, which just comes right out. If you push it in, the SD card slides out. You won't have to do this until you need to remove pictures from it, which are a couple of different ways to remove pictures from the camera. So that will just stay in there most of the time. And then once your battery is charged, you just place it back inside, and then you're good to go. Oops, wrong one. There we go, and stop it closed. Now you'll notice that in the camera bag and on the camera itself, that the camera actually comes with two lenses, okay? One is for kind of close to medium range, which is probably the one that's already attached to the camera when you get it. And the other one is for medium to long range distance shooting. The two are labeled so you know which one. Obviously and I'll show you how to remove this. If you need to remove the lens, then on the camera, this part of the camera in the front, there's a little button next to the lens, and if you press it in and then twist, the lens comes right off. Okay, so then that's how you get access to your two lenses. You want to make sure that whenever you're not using the lens, make sure that it's got the lens cap on, because we don't want to scratch, damage, or get the lenses dirty, because obviously that will impact the quality of your pictures. So whenever you're not using it, always put the lens cap back on. So you've got the two lenses. You'll notice that one is much bigger than the other, and that's the one for long distances, okay? And then this is kind of the standard lens. And this one is labeled as 1855 millimeter, and then the other is a 55 to 250 millimeter lens, okay? So when you need to switch lenses, just like I showed you a second ago, what you want to do is when you put it back on, the easy way to figure it out is that there's a little display right here that says AFMF, which is actually the autofocus versus manual focus button. That always goes towards that side where the button is on the camera to remove the lens. So sometimes it takes a little, jigsawing it into place, and then once you get it into the spot, you turn it and it will snap, and then the lens is secure. Now when it comes to taking your pictures, obviously the first thing you want to do is remove the lens cap. And there are different buttons that are going on kind of on the camera. There's a bunch of buttons there, but there's really only a few that you really need to concern yourself with. Here at the top next to the dial, there's the on and off switch. So if you just press that on, obviously it'll turn on. The display turns on as well. For regular shooting, I recommend you just look through the viewfinder rather than looking at the display. You'll want to use the display though for video, when you're shooting video. The other thing is that it does have an auto flash that's here at the top. And so when the flash is needed, it will just pop up, and then it'll use the flash for you. So when you're taking a picture, obviously here's the shutter button. And so what you'll do is as you look through, you want to just kind of half press and you see the flash popped up. When you half press, it'll focus, and then it'll beep, and then this will pop up if necessary. You can put that back down when you're done using it. And then you press fully when you want to take the actual photo. Okay, and so that's how you get your picture, and then you'll get a picture of it in the display. So this is set to auto. Couple of things, you want to make sure that here where the lens is attached, I don't know if you can see that, it says AF/MF. You want to have it on AF, okay, so switch it if it's been moved for some reason, because that's the autofocus. Otherwise it won't focus for you. The other thing is that when you look through the viewfinder, you'll see a grid of little arrows, and you want that little grid to be sharp. If for some reason the grid is blurry, then up here next to the flash, there's a little dial that has a plus and minus. And if you're looking through the viewfinder at the grid, if you turn this dial, it will sharpen or blur out the little crosshairs. So if it isn't calibrated right, then make sure that those are sharp before you start shooting. Now, when it comes to taking the photos, in order to zoom in on something, not like with an automatic camera where you kind of push a button, you actually turn the lens. And if you can see that, when I turn it, oops, there we go, it'll actually extend the lens slightly, and that's actually zooming in. It'll still be focused, okay? And then when you press your button, it'll autofocus for you. But then you can just kind of slide this back and forth when you want to zoom in or zoom out on a subject. The other things that are going to be useful to you are these pieces here at the top. At the very top dial, there are different settings. Most of the time, you'll have it on the green one, which says A+, that's kind of the default, and that's your autofocus. If for some reason you're in a place where flash is not permitted, then right underneath that, there's a little like squiggly line, and that's the no flash setting. So you can turn the dial, and then it'll be on no flash. The other ones that you might consider using, 2 down from that, there's a little profile picture of a person's face, and that's kind of just for portrait shooting if you're just trying to capture a subject. If you go down an additional 1, there's a mountain, and that's for landscapes. Down from that is a picture of a flower, and that's for close-ups of a subject. And then down from that one is a figure of a little man running, and that's for sports. So that's good for sports photography. Obviously, for those who are capturing photos of our sports teams, when there's a lot of movement happening, when you're taking pictures of an actual game and people are running and doing things, you want it on the sports setting because it's going to capture those movements a little bit more effectively. And what the sports setting has that the other settings don't have is the ability to do burst shots. So when you're trying to capture someone who's running down the field, for instance, it's hard to just take one picture. So what you can do is you can, when you half hold, for instance, it'll focus up, and then press and hold, and it'll take a series of burst shots of the person doing whatever action they're doing. That way, when you look through your pictures, you could pick the best looking one. So hold and then press. Okay, and you probably heard that clicking multiple times, so that burst shot is happening at that moment. And then when I go back and look through my photos, I can pick the best looking photos of the figure, performing in the sports event. Now, at the very bottom of the turn dial is the video. It looks like a little camera, so that one's kind of obvious. Okay, so if I want to shoot video movies of something, then I want to go into the video mode. But to start recording, you don't push the shutter button. On the camera in the back on the display, there's a little button that looks like kind of a little camera. That's actually the record button. So when you want to do video, that's the button you need to push. And there's a little red dot there, kind of a traditional record. But that's the button you would push to start and end recording. So if I push that button, then I've got recording going on. My display has a little recording button, and there's also a red flashing button over here that's also happening at the same time. And then when I'm done, I just push that same button at the top of the display again in order to stop recording. Now, if I've taken a bunch of pictures and I want to preview them, you can look here next to the visual display. This can turn on and off, by the way, if you want to. Let me put this back to auto mode. And then if I want to mess with the viewfinder, I can just push that little camera button up here at the top right of the display screen, and then that'll give me the ability to look basically what my viewfinder is seeing. This will see. Again, I find it more effective to go through the viewfinder when you're taking photos, but obviously for video you have to use this. Also, when you're taking video, you can't take pictures. Okay, they don't go at the same time. But if you want to preview your stuff, you can turn on the viewfinder, and then down here at the very bottom of this dial, you'll see the little play button. And if you press that, then you start seeing the pictures that you took, and you can kind of scroll through them, okay, using the different dial buttons, basically back and forth. Then if there's a picture that you took that you don't want, at the very top here, right underneath that camera button, you can see the little trash can, so you can press it and then choose to erase something if you want to erase it. Now, when you're ready to take your pictures and everything out of the camera so that you can put them on the computer, pick the images you like, or send them to us, there's two different ways to do it. The camera comes with this cable, okay, this kind of USB cable that has a way to plug into the camera here on the side. You can see there's a little door with like a USB thing like that. And then you just open this up, you plug this in, and plug it into your computer. However, the camera will not retrieve images. You can't get the images off that way unless you downloaded the software provided by Canon. So you can plug it in your computer, but nothing's going to happen until you download that software. There's another option though, if you want to do that, it's in the manual that's provided inside of the bag. There's a website to go to where you can download the software for grabbing your images. The other way to do that, so if you don't want to have to download that software, is that in the camera bag there is a little device here, which is a USB, and you put the memory card into the slot and then you plug it into your computer. So this is the thing that you can use to grab your images off if you don't want to download the software. You have to take this off, and it sticks. It's really stubborn, so give it a good hard pull. It feels like I'm going to break it when I'm doing that, but it's fine. But it's very secure. So there's my USB stick, and then the SD card goes here. So just like I said before, that at the bottom of the camera where the battery comes in and out, all you do is you open that up, and then your SD card is in there right on top of the battery. You push it in to make it pop out, and then you can remove the SD card. And then there's two slots. Obviously, this is the regular SD one, not the micro one, because it's not even going to fit in the micro one. But you just slide it in there, face up, and it doesn't go all the way in. It just sticks out like that. And then you plug this into your computer, and then you're going to open up the file folder, and you'll see a file folder that says Canon 100, I think is what it's called, and that's the one where all your video and images are being stored. So then you can go through, pick your images, delete the ones you don't want. Please clean up the SD card when you are finished, and so it's empty for the next person who's going to use it. So that's your basic tutorial on pretty much everything you're going to need to know to get started with this particular camera. Once again, please, before you return the bag with everything in it, go through the checklist that is provided in the bag and make sure you have every single thing included, because obviously if something goes missing, then it's going to really impact anyone else using this camera for the rest of the time we have it. So you want to make sure everything else is put back into the bag before you check it back into the library, and I hope you enjoy utilizing this to capture your photos. Thank you.